Hello, thank you for taking your time to see how I plant rosemary, sage, and lavender. Let's get started. In my soil in my garden, particularly, we're clay with a splash of sand. A lot of these herbs and plantings don't do quite as well in our soil, especially when it turns into swampland. So what we're going to be doing is I've got these 3 larger pots that you see behind the plants. And we're going to go ahead and get these items planted in. I like to grow my herbs, and I've been switching to a lot of plants to this type of mix, is I'm planting them in cactus mix. I take cactus mix and I add about 30% peat moss to it. So I get a very well draining soil for these plants to thrive in. What we'll go ahead and there's nothing really special about any of these plants. They're just standard. I've already got my soil pre-mixed over here, and we can just start down the way, and you can see really how light and sandy and airy the soil is. The cactus mix, you can use any standard one. I'm using one from Kellogg. And you can use the Miracle Grow one or any of the others available at your store. You just want a real high sand and pumice content to it. A little bit of organic matter. And like I said, about 30% peat moss, just to hold a little bit more water. Now what I'm doing with these is I'm just filling up the container until, I'm going to set the pot in. As you can see here, I'm going to fill it up. It's about, maybe at most an inch down. A lot of people will say plant it a couple inches down into the pot so you can add mulch. I intend on these plants to be here for a few years. So what's going to happen is some of the organic matter that's in this sand and cactus mix is going to decompose. So the soil level is actually going to drop an inch over that amount of time. And I'm going to take just a little bit out. And with it dropping that much, it could be 3 or 4 inches deep down into the pot by the time you get a few years out. Now, once the organic matter is gone, I'll just keep adding that compost and mulch. I'll keep adding to the top, and that'll feed the plants from the 3rd year going out to 5. And we're going to pull just a little bit more out here. Now sometimes these plants will get a little fussy because they just grow them in peat moss and get them going in the nursery. So, and you can see we got good roots on it. It's not real root bound. I'm going to go ahead and tear off all these roots on the bottom. This does need a really good watering. It's kind of dry right now. It took too long to do this. Now this is pretty well root bound in here, it looks like, actually. And as you see, I'm just tearing off the bottom. And I've got some cutters right here. We're going to just take them. And because of the way this is, I'm just going to hold it here. And just use the end of it here. Get some scratches in it. Just scratch it up. Then what I like to do is I like to come at the top where it was in the pot here. And I kind of like to kind of pull that edge off a little bit and remove it. And we'll just set that down in here. I think it looks level. We'll grab our soil here and funnel it around the sides here. And I'm just going to take my hands here and kind of just tap it down around the outside of the root ball that we have here. Firm it in there. Now I smell like rosemary. We'll get that firmed in. I'm a little bit lower than what I wanted to be, but that's okay. This will settle in nice. Of course, there's some madness to my methods here. It's below 55 degrees currently. It's overcast. The marine layer looks like it pushed in overnight a little bit. And I want to get that lavender done before it turns on its bee beacon for the day. Because lavender plants are drugs for honeybees. So the idea is hopefully get it planted before our garden buddies start showing up and making it difficult. When you don't see well, you don't always see the bees that are in the flowers. So I work around trying to do it when the bees aren't around the flowers. I'll plant things after dark if I have to, if it's too much of a bee problem. We used to have a honeybee hive that was on our fence line with a neighbor. Used to get a couple swarms a year that came off of it. And as it turns out, we've got the height that I'm looking for. So we've got our nice little rosemary plant. I'm going to put it on the wagon here, and then we'll get everything watered up, and it's going to go out and live in my front garden. Of course, if you're part of my filming saga, we've had problems with the phone wanting to overheat on me. I think we've got it under control. I'm using another phone that's off camera that I'm checking occasionally as a remote viewer. So let's get to this nice garden sage. Same exact way as the other one. We'll get it filled up to a height. We got these pots from Tractor Supply one year when they were 50% off. We picked up the only 3 that they had left. In my environment, during the summertime, you really want to grow in larger containers because the heat will dry the small ones out very, very fast. So now this is just in a bit different of a container. All litter in my garden. There we go. Throw that pot off to the side. Now, well, I didn't plan on this, and I don't have the time to deal with this right now. But there's actually 3 sage plants in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get things like I did before with the other one. These are closer to the side, so I need to be very, very careful. But I'm going to kind of clear things up. This isn't quite as root bound. And what I'll have to do later on this summer is I'll take this up back out of the pot and I'll cut between the roots on all of these and get 3 sage plants out of it in 3 different pots instead of being all into one. This particular sage plant will get about this big in my environment. It can survive through the winter. I'm in 8B. It'll survive through the winter, but what will happen is all the leaves will die back, so you'll get this set of stems instead of a sage plant. If we really get a cold spell, it'll kill the stems back, but in a typical year it doesn't. It'll just leaf out every year, and if it does kill the stems back to the ground, it'll just come back with new stems from the ground. Until my one sage plant that I had like this died. We had it for almost 16 years. I had it down in San Luis. It's about 30 minutes away from where I am now. It lived up here just fine, but we'll talk about what happens when you're in a pot and you miss watering. You lose a plant. Now, I'm really bad about setting up drip systems, but I need the time now, so I got drip set up front. These are going to go up front and be put on the new drip system. And then in front of me, or where you're sitting with the camera, is going to be our container garden this year. And I've got the stuff to put drip in for that. Okay, that is a great height for the sage. And let's get this slid over a little bit. And we'll get this popped in the ground. Or popped into the pot here. Get it filled in. I'm a messy gardener. I get into it. I don't wear gloves. The only times you always see me wearing gloves is when I have to deal with the thistle that we have to get rid of around here. Or in an upcoming video, I have to retransplant this succulent / cactus that we have. And nothing short of welding gloves is the best thing to wear with that thing. We won't talk about how many times I've pulled thorns out of me. That's going to be an interesting video. Maybe we'll call it the Band-Aid video. The thing is so overgrown into its pot, I probably have to break the pot to get it out. And I don't know how much it'll pick it up, but you'll hear the neighbors' chickens making their racket. We've contemplated doing chickens, and where I have to do it, I'll give up the back part of my garden because it needs to be along the back fence to be the appropriate distance from the house. We're just not sure if we really want all the work of it. And they say it's easier than pets, but chickens kind of are pets. I've always thought I want a miniature pig too. But then when I started naming them and coming up with names for them, we decided that wouldn't be a good idea. And there's our next one done. We got our last plant here. And we'll be calling this one a wrap. Yep, looks good. Get this over on this end here. Now this soil that I'm using is recycled. Nice thing is about the cactus mix is you just reuse it. We got a few just hanging over the side here. So we're just gonna pick those out. Maybe. There we go. Lavender grows quite a bit up here as long as you're in the right type of soil. We just happen to have pottery soil. When we finally put them in the ground, we'll put them in little raised beds. And that way when the backyard floods in the wintertime, when we get 30 inches of rain for a record busting year, the lavender will be kind of up on a little hill and it'll survive. Let's see, so how do we like that? That's maybe just a tad more because I'm probably going to remove some roots off the bottom. You know, if you do like what you're watching, just go ahead and hit that like button, and let's get this timely video out there. Yeah. Now here we have a very root-bound plant here, really curling on the bottom. You can see how I consider this yucky. So I'm going to do my trim here off the top first. I thought I wanted these reasonable this morning, so I will go take care of that when we're done here. Now I got my curl off the top there a little bit. And then what I'm going to do here is, because of the way that this is, I'm going to actually tear this whole bottom part off here. And it's pretty hefty down there. So we're going to take our clippers real quick. We're going to snap through it there. And now we got rid of our root bound mess. Toss that to the side. Because of what I took off the pot, I went out a little more. Grab some of this right here. We'll get you set right on top like that. It's nicely set in the pot. And okay, it seems to be stable in there now. I definitely want to thank you guys for taking the time. We didn't plant any of that. I have that out front. We're going to have to retransplant it. Time is finicky up here. Some varieties will survive the winter. Some kind of die back, and you hope they come back. Others, good call a winter, and they're done. And you want to talk about having the right amount of soil? I am just about. And we're like kind of need what little bit I've gotten around here on top of the pallet, or I should say my makeshift gardening bench. This is all set here. I'll bring it over to here. And now it's set to go out front. We got the hose. We're going to get these watered in. And we're going to thank you for stopping by and taking the time to see how I plant my rosemary, sage, and lavender. Don't forget that subscribe button. Thank you for watching. See, some people have, after the video roll and bloopers they play, instead of watching paint dry, you get to watch me water. because of how dry these were, we really want to water things in. Of course, once they're water running in, these things are going to be heavy. But I think this is enough of watching me water. Talk to you next time.